It is my pleasure to bring onto the program for the first time Rafael Soltero, again a sales instructor, Department of Marketing at FIU. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very good. Thank you very much, Pete. It's a pleasure to be here, and hello to all your audience.
Rafael, before we get into our discussion, which it's too bad that we don't have all the time that I know that we will need because this is so much fun, and for me it's an absolute passion. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you arrived at being an instructor at FIU?
Sure. I'll take the shortcut to all this, but I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I went to school down there. I'm a chemical engineer, as a matter of fact. And that's the number one question that I get asked by my students. How did you get from chemical engineering to be a professor? And I tell them that really it was not from chemical engineering because my grandmother wanted me to be a priest, and that's where it all started. But that is a long story, so I'm going to take the short story here. I've been doing business development for a couple of large corporations internationally for the past 22 years. And my job has been essentially to build bridges between the companies that I work with and the customers that are out there. I think that I really started when I was moved down to the Latin American region as a business development director for a digital technology when I was working with Eastman Kodak Company. We're making the transition from traditional imaging to the digital business. So it was kind of interesting just to meet customers, try to solve the problems, and then help them out to get out of it, and at the same time get some money for the corporation. So I think that it was about back in 2012, I had a cup of coffee with a friend of mine, and they told me, maybe you want to try a little bit of being a teacher. And I became a adjunct professor at FIU. After that, I fell in love with what is to change this undergraduate students' life a little bit, giving them some true perspective about the real world out there. And I'm here. Now I'm a full-time professor at FIU, and I'm having a lot of fun. And,
I mean, sales and business development is a lot of fun. I mean, once you get in it, you can't get out. It's like an addiction, and it's a great positive addiction, because if you have the right mindset, and you and I talked about that off air, of going in there to bring value to that prospective client, to focus on their pain points, on their problems, and go through a process to identify the root cause of those problems, and then bring to them a solution. There's nothing better than that, because that's where you really truly make a difference in their lives. Not to go in there and try to sell them on your products and services because you believe it's the best thing out there and that everybody should purchase it or invest in it. It has nothing to do with that. So you and I are definitely on the same page on the fact that, and you gave me a great example of finding that pain point. And that's, people are asking for help.
Yeah, exactly right. I personally think that nobody wants to give their money away unless they really find a necessity to do that. So they have to justify it. And people will buy in order to resolve a problem. I had a friend of mine that used to say that people throw money at problems in order to resolve them. And that is true. So I think that the basic objective of a salesperson is really to first of all, find the problem that the customer has, and then resolve it. And in that, build trust and make sure that they can resolve the problem in a way that is, ethical, in a way that is human, and in a way that essentially everybody has a win-win situation. So, and that's the way that we are trying to teach our students over at FIU.
Absolutely. It's taking that real-world experience and bringing it to FIU, and that's one of the, I think, part of the secret sauce of FIU. It's bringing the real world to the classroom, not just this theory about the way things were. I mean, we know that especially after the Great Recession, things have changed dramatically in our world. It is not what it was before. And now technology on top of everything, expediting change, demanding change. And as I say many times, and it's our network, my show by design, is a blueprint in progress. It never stops developing and creating. And as a business developer, as a problem solver for the pain points of an individual or a business, you have got to be very empathetic to that person. You've got to take the lead, and in many cases, you need to approach what you're doing as if you were a doctor. And if you think about what a doctor does and the process they follow, that's the mindset and the approach that anyone that is in that profession has to do.
Pete, funny that you say that. We're just creating a little video where I appear with a stethoscope and a little, doctor's dress code, whatever it is. And it's about resolving the pain issue. It's about, discovering the pain. You go to a doctor, the first thing that they do is that they ask you, where is the pain? They don't know where it is. And then the next thing that they ask is how much pain you have.
Yep.
And then they do a diagnostic. They may do some additional testing or whatever it is. But at some point, they come back and tell you, we're going to resolve your pain, and this is what we're going to do. So the process is the same. And I think that that's what we're trying to do at FIU. You cannot learn about sales by just reading a book. This is like dancing. You cannot just watch a video and say, oh, I'm going to dance. It took me a long time to dance, and I started to dance really when I went out and did it. So sales is something that you got to go out and do. You have to understand what is to have to react to a situation that all of a sudden comes out of the blue, and how can you just focus, make that customer the center of the world for you. If you can make that customer feel that they're the center of the world, they will listen to you. They will try to establish that relationship that you want to establish. And at some point, the closing will happen, everything else will come in, and that's part of the process. But without that relationship, without that trust, it never goes in.
No, and like I said, it's a world where people do not want to be sold to. They don't want someone trying to push a product or service as terrific as it might be, as unique as or innovative as it might be. They're not interested in any of that. They're interested in resolving their pain points, and they want to know that you care. And they want to know that you're focusing on them, not you. And one of the ways that we fall into the trap of the old way of doing it and selling is if we are not talking to enough people, if we're not prospecting, and we look, especially when we're running short of our quotas or our numbers or whatever they be, or our managers are putting pressure on us because we don't have enough of a pipeline build up. Anyone that is walking with a heartbeat, you're looking at them, that's my next client, that's my next customer. Let me wow them, let me convince them that they should buy from me, regardless of what situation they may be in.
And I think that you are 100% correct on that one. With all the pressures, given the fact that this is, from my perspective, the most important position in any company, which is, if you don't have revenue on any company, the only thing you have is cost, and essentially that's called bankruptcy. And without really having a top line growth, without really having a good sales force motivated to go out there and sell, without really having all these pressures that you have, you're going to have a very unhappy company. So how do you create that environment as a CEO, as a sales manager, to really go out and motivate your salespeople to be the best out there and be happy at it? And I have a little book that I wrote that's called The Happy Salesperson. And you got to focus on your customer. That is the trick. You focus on your customers, I think that you will see that a lot of things go your way, because they will understand that you care. And I think that's a key word, Peter. Caring about your customer is really important.
Before we talk about two initiatives that the university has, can you expand a little bit more on the whole methodology of teaching you and your colleagues actually do at the university? Sure.
We have 4 professors, Nancy Rauseo, we have Greg Acevedo, and we have Anna Petrashik, and myself. And we essentially have a full-blown schedule of classes that we do, all the way from personal selling to B2B sales, to sales management, to advanced selling, to CRM. And our methodology, what we do is that all of us have a lot of experience out there in the real world. So we bring it into the classroom. We put the students in situation. We make them do the sales. We do a lot of role playing. We create scenarios where the students essentially have to prepare to, but they don't know what are going to be the objections that they're going to be receiving and whatnot. And then we teach them what is the process in order to go through the sales process, how to ask the right questions, how to go through the discovery process, how to transition from the discovery process to a presentation, how to make sure you can handle all the objections in a way that you are sure that the objection has been handled and it's not going to come to bite you back somewhere later in the process. So we put them through the whole process of selling, and we make them do it. And we put them in front of the cameras. So like, in any sport, you know how to swing because you can see yourself swinging. But in this case, you learn how to sell better when you see yourself in front of somebody, interacting with them, asking the right questions. What's your body language saying? I mean, do you really are showing that you care for that customer, or you want to get out of there? Are you looking at your watch or not? What is it that's happening during those 15 minutes that are going to be very important for the decision for you to sell or not a particular product or service? So that's what we do, and we put the students into the situations that help them then practice, and then it becomes natural, and then they can react.
I think that one of the things that's critical today is that, and it goes against traditional sales training models. We, as the business developer, sales professional, in the old days, we were taught to be enthusiastic, full of energy, pumped up, super excited. The problem with that is that because today people do not want to be sold to, and they see someone approaching them in that particular way, that's a turnoff. The walls go up. They don't hear anything right now. Remember, and I know that you teach it this way because we had the conversation before we went on air, is the fact that we're not there to make a sale. We are there to solve problems for that individual there.
Yep.
The prospect has to be more enthusiastic about this meeting and more excited than you are. Now that may sound kind of strange, but because we were trained for years and programmed to be pumped up and excited all the time and wow people with our personality, it's the other way around. That prospect has to have more of a sense of urgency to meet with you than you with them.
Right. And it's another part that is interesting too, that varies by region, by country, or whatever. I mean, all these messages that you're sending in terms of being pumped up and everything else could be seen as objectionable in other parts of the world,
right.
like in Japan or in China when you go to do business. So we try to bring in that international perspective. I mean, being Florida International University, we try to bring that international perspective into this. And we create situations where we talk about, and many of my classes, I mean, are so diverse. We got people from all over Latin America. I've had people from China. I have people from Korea. And what I try to say is, okay, so let me put you in this situation. What do you think you would do in that particular country? What are the things that are going to be objectionable, and what are the things that are going to be welcome? Let's talk about it, because we need to understand that international perspective too.
I absolutely love that, and that's a great insight, because we are it's a global economy, and we have got to know how to have processes that apply to that country and culture, and what we do and what we don't do, what we say, what we don't say. So I think that's an interesting approach that you're using there.
Not only that, you don't have to go outside of the United States.
No, here.
You go even to New York, to California, and to Miami, and you have
different cultures.
And the salesperson has to be able to detect and adapt, because the buyer doesn't have to do anything. The buyer has to feel good with you.
That's it.
And your job is really to adapt without changing yourself and becoming somebody else, but really adapting in a way that it's transparent, that it
looks authentic, that it's authentic.
And that you still show that you care. Definitely, that is the trick.
Well, let's talk about the two initiatives that you have. First of all, the Global Sales Program.
Yep. So the global sales program that was started, I would say, 5-6 years ago by Dr. Rafael, and essentially it goes into we have to teach our students how to become better salespeople. I mean, knowing that the majority of them are going to get a sales job, we need to prepare them better. We want FIU to have the best training out there for anybody. But I think that sales is an area that not a lot of people train on. So what we're trying to do is that we have three different, what we call the three legs of the program. Number one is the educational part. We teach you how to do personal selling, the B2B sales management. We have a good portfolio of classes that will really enhance your ability to sell. Then the other part that we have is we have competitions. And by the way, in all the classes are very active. It's not that you're sitting down, you're running through exercises, you're doing role plays, you're videotaping yourself. I mean, all the time you're feeling very uncomfortable, and that's the trick. You got to make the students feel uncomfortable so that at the end, when they're over, they say, okay, now I've done it once.
Build the confidence.
Yes,
to be able
I've
to go
done it
to the
once,
real
so
world.
I know what to do. And then we go into the competition, which is, okay, so now we're going to take everything that we taught you, and now we're going to put it into test. So we have some tournaments that are internal. We also have a global, and we'll talk about that later. And then the other part is that we have a bunch of sponsors that are coming in because they are in need also. They need their people to be better salespeople.
That's right.
And they don't want to have the burden of training them. So they come in and they say, hey, can I help you, FIU, become a better trainer for us so that we know where to go and get the best people?
You know that there's two distinct types of training. One is in the products and the services of that organization, and the other one is on the skill sets. Okay? What I have seen, and this is why I develop my methodology and why I do what I do with corporate training and all of that, and I speak on the topic, is that the majority of the training programs that are being offered in today's world is mostly on products and services. No one is teaching skill sets, mindsets. That is a major gap in the marketplace, and I'm thrilled to see that FIU is preparing its students for that. Now, I want to get into what's coming up right around the corner, which is the Panther Sales Tournament. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Panther Sales Tournament. It happens in September 29th and 30th, and you can go to FIU Panther Sales Tournament, and you will find it in the internet. You can get more information. The idea there is that we have between 50 and 60 students that are going to be competing. They're going to be competing, or they're going to be selling a product. They're going to be selling to real buyers that come from the corporate world, and they're going to be judged by real people that are selling. And what we do is that we put them, the first 70 go in, and we put them 6 in a room, and they're competing within that room with each other player in there. The top 3 advance to the next round, and then what we do is that we change the situation, we change the role play, and we keep doing that for 3 rounds, and at the end we have a winner. But it's essentially a way that represents the real world there. You have a situation, you have a particular role play, we give you all the information in order to get prepared to get there, but then the situation may change just as you come into that particular room. And then what we do is that we watch them, we tape them, and then we have these forms that we complete for each one of those students, and they get them back so they know what they did good, what they didn't do that good. They get some feedback from the sponsors, and now the sponsors have 70 students that they have seen in action, that they have seen. They can go back and review their tapes, so they know what they are. It's not just a resume. It's a person that has already shown their skills. Just like you said, this cannot be seen in the resume. You can talk about you having all these skills, but one thing is to say it, the other thing is to demonstrate it.
You see them in action. They're under pressure,
Under
how to respond to real life scenarios.
And not only that, changes in real life scenarios, because they don't know what they're going to see when they get there. I mean, we use names, right? For example, we use names that you don't know if it's going to be a woman or a man who you're going to be talking to, okay? So it can be Nikki. Now, Nikki can be a Nicolas, or it can be some other Nicolette. So we use names that when you come into that office, you really don't know, and we never give you any idea of what it is. So you, all the time, what we're trying to do is surprise you to see how the student reacts. and you would be surprised by the kind of students. And the other part here is that this is the only tournament where essentially you go from competing in English, and the next round you're going to compete in Spanish. So it's a bilingual sales tournament. So what our theory is that if you're good in sales, it doesn't matter what language you have. You can sell in both languages. And we found out that there are some amazing things that happen when you're talking in a different language. People adapt a lot differently. If you are right, for example, I may come in and talk to a Japanese. I am not going to be the same that if I was talking to somebody from Puerto Rico. So that adaptness, that adaptation that you can do varies. So what we do is that we put it to test, and there is no better lab. That's what we call it, the global sales lab. There is no better lab than a camera, two people interacting, and you videotaping and trying to find out how they did.
You know, and the more uncomfortable you can make them feel, the better value you're giving to that student, because you don't want to make it just so easy in the classroom. They get to the real world and they stumble at the first sign of opposition or obstacle that hits them.
Exactly. And what we tell them, and the thing that they understand very well, because they're playing all these games on their phones and whatever, you can reboot. In school, you can fail with the objective of learning. When you're out there in the real world, you don't want to fail. So take the advantage that we're giving you to really go and put yourself in a very uncomfortable level, and then see how you react. If you fail, you're going to learn a lot. If you succeed, then you're going to teach some other people how to do it well. And you know, many of these students that we have a FIU Sales Society, which is kind of the Dead Poet Society for sales.
Yeah.
And
imagine that.
Yeah.
What a concept.
What we do is that we have students come in and talk about sales. We have corporations come in and talk to them. They develop their own exercises. They do their own stuff. And the students also help coach and teach some of the other students. I mean, I can come in and teach 50 students, but I am an older, person, not the same level of understanding that they have. Another student comes in with the same age that they have and teaches them, and they learn a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the type of thing we're trying
Rafael,
to do.
this is fascinating, and again, it's a topic that is in my DNA ever since I was 18 years old. It's what I've done through the years. I've been in that position where I've been focusing on increasing that top line, and that's what we're doing here on this show and on this station. How can the listeners get more information? So
just go to the FIU marketing department and type sales, and they will get into the global sales program, or they can go and Google global sales program at FIU. And they will get all the information that they have regarding the Panther sales tournament, which happens September 29th and 30th. And we're open to have all kinds of people come in and check us out. And you will get an email with an invitation. I think, Pete, you are going to be a judge. You're going to be in there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'd be honored to contribute. So, Rafael, thank you so much, my friend. This has been terrific, buddy.
It's been my pleasure. And if you want to talk about all the other subjects some other time.
Oh, my God. No. Now we got a reason to hook up, man, periodically. We'll share a lot of ideas here. Thank you,
Sounds
buddy.
good. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care of yourself.